Wherever Moosh is at this moment, I think he is that tree planted by the rivers of water, bringing forth fruit of creativity every season, never withering, because his heart is good. How could it not, when he was made with such love, redeemed? That is what Rachel and Noah has done, redeem the discarded child. For love covers a multitude of sin, as its covered nakedness exposed without skin. This is Sugar, A Tall History of Sugar by Cordelia Forbes. Now, this is the last book that was on my TBR for the Cribathon that I didn't get to, and I purposely didn't do it right away because I knew it was going to be a little bit more heavy and more a book you want to take your time with because of how the synopsis read. Now, this is a historic fiction, and I'm glad it's a historic fiction because, you know, I love that genre. But I didn't expect this because it gave me a magical realism at first, because this is about a man born without skin. So, and then the whole idea of sugar and the historic. So I'm thinking, you know, it was going to go right back to colonial days or, you know, that era of plantation life in Jamaica, but it didn't. It started, I think, about 3 or 4 years before independence, so it's the late 50s, and it's about this woman called, her name is Rachel, and she's married, but she has not been able to have children. She has wanted it, and it's just not happening for her. And her husband is a fisherman who's a little bit more quiet, but he fit into her personality because she can be a bit overwhelmed. She's very religious, and she's, you know, likes to refer to religious scripts, you know. So what happened is she found a child, and the idea of the child in the bush child, and when she found the child was different. Nevertheless, it was a child, so she took the child in and raised the child with her husband as her own. Now, it started as this coming of age story, but it's infused with a woman called Ari. Now, Ari is the opposite of him. You know, she comes from a family that has, you know, they're not wealthy, but they're well off compared to him. You know, she's very strong. She's very fight for him. You know, she got this bond with him at an early age, and also the mother loved that, so she encouraged it. So they grew up together. They're from, you know, elementary school. They're thick as thieves. You see one, you see the other, and that bond somehow morphed into something that just became natural to them. But there's this idea of a spiritual connection, and as they grow older, and they were very smart, they were described as the few kids that has that thing that they can go forth and go to college and all that. And if you think of Jamaica, that time period, if you don't have it, you wouldn't go. It's certain kind of family that went further, but they were very brilliant in different ways, and that bond also, you know, as they grow, you see how that happened. But eventually they become, you know, teenagers and adults, and the bond became more. There's this connection, there's this love amongst them that is so hard to explain and very complicated, but also has this like beautiful thing about it because they know each other so well. It's that skin and no skin kind of connection, where he doesn't have the skin, she has it, but they support each other, entwine in each other in a way that I loved. Now, it does get complicated because it addresses sex. It addresses sexual connection with someone, where your heart is connected to the person, you want the person, but there's that sexual connection that is a puzzle in this book. And how she does it and talk about it is very interesting. And it also have this idea where, how do you define that? How do you have a relationship and connection with someone, but sexually there's something that's just different, and can't be explained in a lot of ways. I love that. Now, this is very much has a lot of magical realism, but in the form of dreams. Characters will have these dreams of how they want things to be and how they expect things to be. And then you will go to another scene in the book where you're like, oh, that was just a dream. So that part sometimes got me a little bit, tricked me a little bit, because I'm like, oh, that didn't happen, that's just a dream, that kind of reaction. But it's a kind of romance that, when I think about it, it's beautiful. But then I also think, I don't want this kind of romance. It was heavy. It was the connection that these two characters have was so heavy, and it's so twisted in a way, but then also has that beautiful element that you want parts of it, but not all of it, because it's just toxic in a lot of ways where they couldn't. It's like they couldn't be themselves without each other. There's a part in the story when he goes away. He found a way to get off the island, and he's now in the world where his difference is being noticed. He is considered like the white black man. That's the best way I'm gonna say. They use, of course, the N-word in here, because you look at him, his skin, he does look black, but there's things about his features that says he's black. So he's learning about the world, and he's using that to fuel his creativity, because he's an artist. And he became, in the book, they paint him as this artist that was brilliant, and years later how his work was loved and exhibiting how much his paintings were worth after. But his painting is how he reflects his inner thought, his struggles, because as you would expect with anyone, when you are being tossed out like that, and then you don't know your parents, your biological parents, and you don't know your roots, you don't know why you were born without skin, you don't know all these things, so you create this imagination of what your parents may look like, or what may have happened, or why you're meant to be here. And you see that in how he paints, and that's how I'm imagining his painting, because it shows that creepy aspect of his painting, but then also that the visual of his painting in a way where you can just imagine how great it looks, and how you could probably stare at his painting for hours just trying to think about what it means. And I love that about this. I love how they did that. But it's such a complicated couple. Like, I never read anything like this, and it gives you a different element of love and sacrifice, and how people can be together in these in difficult moments, and years of love and waiting, and you can't be without the person, and you're willing to live with the flaws, the thing that you will never get from that person, but everything else means so much more that you are okay with that. I was just like, this is some deep issue. And it does make you think of real life couples, who have that connection with each other and are willing to be with each other with their flaws. Like, that's some serious love situation. And I don't know if I want this kind of love in this book. Like, I think about it, I'm like, that's some love that kind of, I think, is a bit twisted. But then it also made me sad because of how it ended towards the end. But then it still has that, yeah, that's just how it's supposed to be kind of moment. I love this book. I'm surprised, because it's not what I thought it was going to be at all. I do encourage it. It is a Caribbean author. She is from Jamaica. And she currently teaches, I think, at Howard. Yeah, she teaches at Howard University. Never heard of her, but this right here was a creative, for sure. this is definitely creative. It's not anything I've ever read. So I definitely think you should give it a chance. It is more of a literary fiction, how it's written. I love the writing style of it. It does have infused Creole, patois, but the patois was a little bit watered down, so I don't think you're gonna have an issue reading this and with the patois, because I think she did it in a way where I think the average person who doesn't understand patois will not have a problem with this. So definitely check it out, read it, and if you've read it, what do you think? I think this is one of those ones that are, you're going to either be frustrated with a couple or love them, and but definitely take a chance with this. So yeah, I am going to end this video here, and yeah, and continue with some more readings of books that I am with into, and I need to add a classic. I haven't read a classic this month yet, so that's definitely going to be one that I'm going to pick up. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and have a good day.